Hey guys, welcome to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Friday afternoon to you all. It's been a little while since we last spoke, and look, a lot has happened for Tottenham, and a lot has happened for the worse. I think anyone who has any sense of realism can understand things are at an all-time low. So we'll be talking about a little bit on the current state of affairs, what is to come, what's next to see, and things like that. And look, I think it's fair to say Spurs having, I think it was something that I saw earlier was that Spurs are one of the best teams in Europe, right? I think it's something like last 17 games we've won 12, which is an astonishing feat. I mean, we talk, people bashed us for the Europa League run, but I mean, when we look at the fact that Bodo Glimt have beaten Inter home and away, Man City at home, beaten Atletico Madrid, let's not hide away from the fact that Spurs maybe didn't have the easiest run in the world. I'm not saying it was the world's most difficult run, but it wasn't the easiest. I think if we really look at it and drill down right now, when Spurs are looking at the table as we speak, sitting in 16th, 1 point ahead of 18th, which is obviously the relegation zone in the Premier League. Having won 7 games from 29 this season, drawing 8. I mean, half the season we haven't won. That's 15 of the 29 we have not won. We've lost 14. Regardless of what has happened previous, is Igor Tudor the man? No, he never was. We knew this. It wasn't shocking. I said all along, God help us. I haven't been proven wrong. Do I think he's had a pretty horrific time of luck? Yes. I think Mickey van der Ven could do with looking himself in the mirror a little bit at the moment. I think he is riding a wave of everyone saying he's an amazing centre-back, he's this, that and the other. And actually, he's not been good for a little while, to be honest. Yes, Romero doing what Romero has done. That's not been helpful. But in reality, players aren't stepping up to the plate. You've got players who are basically downing tools. You've got players who are flat out just an embarrassment to this football club. I think that's fair to say. And, I'm not going to sit here and be overly optimistic and say, well, we'll finish at the top half of the table. We're only 11 points behind 10th. I mean, 11 points behind 10th is an embarrassment for this football club. It's an embarrassment for this football club. Thomas Frank should hold a humongous amount of blame for being one of, if not Spurs' worst ever manager. You can't tell certain Spurs journalists, by the way, you notice the ones that are like really buddy-buddy with Thomas Frank because they've slagged off every other manager, but not really slagged off Thomas Frank. And you know who they are. They're an absolute discredit to this football club, and hopefully they get moved to a different football club to report on because they're not beneficial to us. They're actually a detractor of this football club. But the reason why I don't think Spurs are going down, and it's not because Spurs are too big. No club is too big to go down. I can promise you no club is too big to go down. We look at the clubs that are down there. You have, teams like Nottingham Forest got relegated before. And I know they're 17th. It's actually irrelevant for this conversation. They're European champions. They got relegated. Leeds United were, in Champions League, semi-finals, I'm pretty sure they were. And a few years later, they're plummeting down the leagues. So you're not big. You're not too big to be getting relegated. You aren't. And anyone that tells you they are doesn't understand football. The reason why I don't think Spurs will go down, and look, we're the only team that have not won or drawn in the last 5 in the Premier League. Okay, Nottingham Forest have drawn 2 and lost 3. And West Ham have won 2 and drawn 2. Somewhat actually in quite good form. They haven't lost in 3. Leeds United have won 1 and drawn 2. Even Wolverhampton Wanderers have won 2 and drawn 2. Spurs are the only team to have not gotten a single point. Now, yes, Thomas Frank is a very poor manager, and we all thought he was. And yes, maybe Igor Tudor isn't the guy either. But at some point, these players actually need to be held accountable. Watching yesterday's game, look, we weren't actually that bad in the first half for the red cards. Obviously got the VAR call that was made for us. It's about time something went for us. We seem to get absolutely rotten luck with it all. We weren't that bad. We were creating chances. And to be honest, the way Palace played, I think we would have gone on to win by 2 or 3, if I'm honest. They looked so poor. Even at 3-1, I thought we were the better team. It is what it is on that. Doesn't matter. You've lost the game. Simple as that. One thing I would say is players need to be held accountable for not standing up. You don't hear players. It's really weird. You don't hear from the players that are underperforming as well. When we think about, how the higher ups hide. Oh, we've done a poor job. We're going to hire Johan Lang and Vinay, which, by the way, I hope both those two leave my football club. They are awful, awful detractors of this football club. Completely inept at their jobs. In your line of work or in my line of work, they'd have been sacked by now. Performance plans and sacked. The irony is Daniel Levy would have sacked both of them by now. Trust me. Daniel would have sacked Thomas Frank back last year. And that's the irony. Look, I don't think Dan Levy's a good chairman by any means in certain regards. Certain regards, obviously, yes, he's a good businessman and things like that. All the while that we were doing well in Europe, he understood. I think he also understood, look at the injuries, this, that, and the other. But we've not been good for, 6 months? We've not been good since October last year. We were fluking our way through games and riding that wave, but these players need to be held accountable. I'm sick of the bigger name players not being good enough. I'm sick of these players always being out injured as well. I'm starting to think there's a little bit to this where players are going, if I go out injured, then I can't be blamed for our poor run of form. It does kind of give me that vibe because obviously once we started doing well in the Europa League, you started to see, Spurs are getting less injuries week in, week out now. And I do think it's part of that when they go, there's a European run, we're playing really well. Oh, cool, I'm only going to play in the Europe, so I'll be fit. Well, we've been playing a lot of our games, one game a week sort of thing, and there's been rotation and players are going out injured. And I don't know, it's given me bad vibes. I think I've got players at my football club who are dodging playing for this football club, unless it's the Champions League, because guess what? Spurs are in the Champions League, we're in the knockouts, and a European run awaits. We're not winning it, I'm not saying we are, but I'm just saying it's funny how it works. All the while we're good. Hey, we've not got injuries. As soon as the form starts to dip, the injuries start to add up. Oh, I've got this hamstring. Oh, I've got this, and that's me for a few weeks. And then before you know it, other players have got to play more and more and more. They actually can get actual injuries, and the players who are injured then come back. I don't know. I'm not saying a conspiracy theorist, but you would have to sit there and say there's something probably to that. It's every season. And it's around the same time every season when our form starts to dip, you start to see injuries kick in as well. Just saying, something to think about. But look, in reality, I don't think Spurs will go down. Firstly, and probably my only point I need to make, I don't actually see the other teams around us picking up enough points. It's nothing to do with Tottenham going on a 6-game win streak. Not at all. I look at it and go, you've got 9 games left of the season. You win 3. Let's say you win 3, which is a 33% win rate. It's not outrageous to ask. Spurs are winning currently about 24% of their games, 23. So it's not crazy, right? And that would take you to 38 points. You're then banking on Forest or West Ham picking up 11 points because their goal difference is -8 and -12 worse than us respectively, which is basically like another point, right? I just don't see it personally. Could it happen? Absolutely. No hiding and no hiding away from the fact that we are absolutely in a relegation battle, which if we are to go down, as long as Johan Lang and Vinay never get set foot near that football club, you know what? It's not even that bad a result. That's how bad these two are at their jobs. Okay, so like I said, is there a crisis? Yeah, you probably say there would be. Am I like maybe some other Spurs content creators who I don't watch their stuff, but I assume it's Spurs are doomed, Spurs this, Spurs that, and they're shouting, they're shouting about all this, that, and the other. Probably there is those people. I think I'm just a bit more realist. There's plenty of football still to play. You'd expect there to be a bit of health come back our way in the next couple of weeks. I even think there's probably is there an international break this time around? Quick little look. Is there an international break in 2026? They'll tell me there's one in the summer. No, I don't think there is. Okay, fine. The irony is we probably could do with one, although we seem to send players on international break and they come back even more injured, which is always impressive. Even though Sweden seem to think Kulusevski is going to be fine soon. That's nice. That's news to me. Be good if he could play at Spurs. But look, we lose obviously Mickey now for a collective of games. Romero's now back. That I think was his last game of the 4. You know, Danso has come back. I actually think Danso looked decent whilst we had 11 players on the pitch. Obviously, then Mickey van der Ven decided that he wanted to throw the game for us, which is kind of him. Thanks, Mickey. You know, there should be a case to play that there's probably a few players coming back from injury. Could do with Igor Tudor's match selection being better. You know, you've got a really attacking right back, one of the best creative right backs in the league, and you put him at centre half and a centre mid at right back. Now, the irony is Archie Gray played really well, but you would, in theory, stick João Paulinho at centre half, Porro at right back, and Gray in midfield. Surely that would make more sense. I don't personally get it, but what do I know? I'm not a Premier League manager. But look, like I said, there's a lot of football to go. I'm not sitting here and guaranteeing safety. Why would I? I'm not an idiot. All right? Am I sitting here and trying to remain optimistic? Yes. Is that delusional? Probably. But am I going to sit here and be all doom and gloom, like the weather that it is outside, nice and wet outside? I'm not going to be that. There's 9 games to go. Yes, Liverpool at home. What is it? Liverpool at home this weekend. Not this weekend. It's FA Cup this weekend, isn't it? So Spurs don't play in the Premier League now to the 15th of March. 9 days away. Lovely. Spurs cannot ruin my mood in domestic football for 9 days. They can Tuesday night when they're in Spain against Atletico Madrid. But knowing us, we'll win that game and everyone will go, how is that even possible? It'd be just so typical. But, I mean, you look at it and think, all right, Liverpool away, even if you chalk that up as a loss, right? You then got Atletico Madrid at home, second leg. You then got Forest at home, right? Sunderland away, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Villa away, Leeds at home, and you finish the season with Everton at home, who have got to have nothing to play for by the end of the season. Chelsea away, yeah, cool. There's winnable games there, and I'm not going to sit here and say Spurs will win this game and win this game, but Leeds are one place above us. Wolves are bottom of the table. Everton will be done probably by the end of the season. Brighton, not having a great season. Forest below us in the league. Sunderland away, that's not a gimme. Sunderland doing well. Where is Sunderland in the league now? Sitting mid-table 11th. They've had a really great season, to be honest. But, you know, Spurs should be looking at it going, look, there's points to be had there. Let's not shirk away from that. Let's not hide away from that. Let's embrace that. Let's embrace the fact that maybe Spurs actually need Champions League football to distract them from the fact they're inept in the Premier League. And like I said, knowing our luck, we'll go to Atletico, we'll get a positive result, and everyone will go, where's that in the league? And everyone will go, I don't know. Football works in mysterious ways is all I'll sum that up as. But look, let's wait and see. Spurs can't ruin your weekend. Isn't that the positive of this video? We can all agree and be glass half full that Spurs cannot, via a result, ruin your weekend. That's the positive of the video. Let me know your thoughts down below currently. If you're optimistic, if you're pessimistic, where you're at. I want to know. Let me know, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Peace.